everybody. Welcome back to episode 87 on Saturday night. I just looked at it and I was like, what did I just say?
I was totally confused.
Thanks for all the well wishes for our anniversary.
Yeah.
And we loved seeing how many people that follow us have been married for a really long time too. So that was quite surprising.
We're all old people. We're all old people. We're just gonna do. It's just gonna be for old people from now on.
So that was fun to see how many people have been married for much longer than us, kind of thing. So, and thank you for all the kind comments and well wishes.
Absolutely.
We had a small celebration tonight for our oldest, who is going to be 25 next week, which is insane.
Yep.
And because she's not going to be here for her birthday, so we did a little birthday celebration for her. But I was thinking about when she was born, actually. So her birthday is March 18th, mine is March 19th. Her due date was April 16th. So
right.
She was born way earlier than we thought. I mean, the car seat was still in the box.
4 weeks.
Yeah.
4 weeks.
But we had a party that night. The night that we went to the hospital, we had a St. Patrick's Day party.
It wasn't the night she was born.
No.
Because unfortunately.
It took a long time. But we went into the hospital the night of St. Patrick's Day. We had a party.
Well, that's funny. It was actually on the we had people over on the 16th, which was a Saturday, but we didn't leave for the hospital till early in the morning on the 17th.
Yes.
We had to kick people out, basically.
We did. So it was kind of like, although for me, I just remember like, I'm fine, like we could wait a little bit longer kind of thing.
Until you were stuck in the hospital for 24 hours before.
That was a long thing.
Yeah.
So we had our last guest leave. We called our midwife and explained what was going on, and she's like, "You better."
Who you've seen in pictures.
Yes, who we just posted yesterday, and an amazing woman. And so she said right away, just drive to the hospital. I believe it was like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, it was definitely after midnight.
And we're still living where we are now, like in the same town.
Not the same house.
Not the same house, but in the same town. Actually, no, we were living in Forest Park.
Yeah, that's right.
A lie.
We had already moved.
We lived in the next town over. Anywho, but the hospital was in Chicago, not totally in like downtown Chicago, but because there was no traffic, it was like a 10-minute drive.
Short drive.
So once we got there, then obviously since she was early, they needed to check to make sure that her lungs were fully developed and all that stuff. And it's a teaching hospital, which is fine. I mean, because one's got to learn and everything. But I didn't remember as much until you reminded me after just how many people came in and out of our room just to like see what was going on. And you're just like,
But the crazy thing is, I mean, they kind of like left you just sitting there laying mostly, but for hours. And then they'd come back in and they'd say things like, well, when you go into labor, it's like, well, what the hell is this?
Yeah, like what kind of thing. And actually, that reminded me.
They made it seem like it was gonna be like later, like during the next week or whatever. We're pretty obviously here.
Yeah, and actually, they had me elevated so on the bed, so my head was down a little bit. I don't know why, to like whatever. And so then we ended up check. So then
it's just a rehearsal.
Yeah, it was just kind of like.
No, I meant this is just a rehearsal.
Yeah, this is just it's only our 87th time.
Yeah.
We'll get it straight one of these days. But because we were there for so long, it was just kind of like things. It was just a waiting game, to kind of see when it was going to happen. And for some reason, I decided that was our first one, like, I wasn't going to have any medication at all. Huge mistake. Huge mistake.
And then it was too late at a certain point. You couldn't really change your mind.
Couldn't turn back. So if any young people are watching, I don't advise that.
Don't recommend it.
And I don't even know
give it a bad Yelp review.
Yeah, I don't even know where I got that from. Like it wasn't anything.
Well, we took those classes.
We did. We took the Bradley method.
Right. And you had researched that beforehand.
So I don't know if I just felt like, I don't even know. But I mean, it's modern science. It's available to help. So I highly recommend doing that. Because then by the time So
I needed some drugs by that point.
Did we bring snacks? Did we bring snacks to the room? I don't even know.
We might have. I mean, it wasn't like we were totally unprepared because obviously we knew it was coming.
But we missed a baby shower.
Yeah, that's right. There was a baby shower on St. Patrick's Day,
mm-hmm.
which they went ahead and had the party without us.
They didn't open our presents, thank goodness.
That is true.
But they did get together while we had our thing.
Right, because we must have called my mom or something to let her know. Maybe we waited until the morning to call, like, later in the morning. It was the morning, but later in the morning.
Right.
That I don't remember, but somehow we touched base with my mom.
Because she was hosting the party.
She was hosting the party. And so, I mean, at that point, they weren't going to really call it off. That must have been it. We must have talked to her in the morning. Because it was going to be like early afternoon. Anyway, so they all just showed up. And I guess in part they thought, well, they'd wait to hear the news. But it wasn't that simple.
Yeah, it still was a waiting game. And in fact, she wasn't born until the 18th on March 18th.
Which was a Monday.
Yeah, like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. So it was a good 24 hours of
Okay, well,
labor.
Since we've gone this far, I may as well just tell them the rest of the story. So, since she was born early, she was with us the whole time. After having her and everything, she was in our room.
Well, and that was when, I mean, you talk about being a teaching hospital and all kinds of, I mean, the people, when you were actually ready to deliver, they just kept bringing people into the room, and it was crazy.
Yeah, and thank goodness I have no recollection of that at all, kind of thing, because I guess I was just focused on what was in front of me. But it must have been weird for you. To be like...
It was very strange. I mean, and the thing is that it may or may not be a routine sort of thing, but when it's your first kid and you don't know, it was actually kind of alarming.
Yeah,
because,
like is something going to happen kind of thing.
Right. And Gail was there, but they didn't they kind of not literally, but because Emma was early, they kind of didn't really let her get too involved, which was unfortunate.
Yeah, so she was definitely
there. Spent a lot of time, put a lot of trust in her, and I mean, she was there, and she was involved, but I felt like, that it would have been nice if they let her be more involved.
Yeah. So then, since she was born on the 18th, my birthday's the 19th. So on my birthday, she was in my arms. They brought...
we were ready to go home.
We were, gearing up to, getting everything together. They brought me a huge muffin or cupcake with candles in it for my birthday. Everything was, going fine and everything. And then just one of the nurses just said... your daughter's not going home with you today.
Yeah.
And so I was like, we're not
casual.
going home. And she's like, no, you're going home. I'm getting ready, but your daughter's not. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, that was pretty
so it wasn't a great communication. Wasn't there.
And I think that to some degree that has to do with it being a teaching hospital too. It's like you're kind of irrelevant. You're just, I don't know, maybe that's unfair.
Yeah,
but it was just felt like we were not really...
told what was going on.
Yeah,
so she ended up having
that
jaundice, which is not uncommon for babies who are born early. Everything else with her was perfectly fine. So we did have to leave her there, and then we just kept on.
But to find out at the last second,
it was
you were dressed and ready to go,
thinking we're out the door. We got the car seat. And she was there for a week, so it was the longest week of our lives, pretty much, because...
And it was the only week that I had off.
Mm-hmm.
So we would just, get up in the morning, kind of get our act together, we'd go spend time with her, obviously, at the hospital, come home, eat dinner, go to bed.
Go back.
That was the time that I had off with our first child.
Yeah.
It really stunk.
It was, and the reason why we... In retro, it's like you could have worked that week and then taken the next week off, but it was you're
not going to not spend time with your child who's in the hospital.
Oh yeah, but it's also they never said it'll probably be a week that she'll be here. It was every 6 hours or every 12 hours.
In fact, if I remember correctly, we would call in the morning because we didn't know when we went there if we were just going to visit or we're actually going to bring her home.
Right. So every 12 hours they would check her bilirubin, and then it wouldn't be the number they wanted, and then we're going to check another 12 hours. So it's just a roller coaster of emotions. Like, what is this going to happen?
And
how long is it going to happen?
The thing is that it's. I don't mean to be critical, but of them. I mean, they're just trying to do the best thing. But the frustrating thing about that particular situation is that the treatment for jaundice is to expose the baby to sunlight or to essentially artificial sunlight. And it's like, well, we have windows. It's, it's sunny outside. It almost seems like the kind of thing that does it require. I mean, she's a newborn baby, so I understand.
And our first, so we
it's not like it's not like she was on medication. And the other thing too, and this didn't turn out to be a problem, but if your objective is to nurse your kid, you can't be, well, maybe now you could, but we didn't really have the option to be there 24 hours a day. So she was going to be bottle fed a good portion of the day. Now, sometimes that creates a problem for nursing and sometimes it doesn't. It turned out not to be a problem. But everything is brand new. You don't know.
And then I also remember when other babies were in the NICU that there were no parents around, and I was like, where are these parents or everything? And those babies were up for adoption. I do remember a couple of them that they said that some were waiting to be adopted.
Well, and you never know anybody else's circumstances.
Oh gosh, yeah,
it's not a matter of being judgmental, but it is, the whole thing was brand new to us, obviously, so it was kind of
and
it was a hard
think it's
week,
like really
to say the least.
It's just weird, like 25 is like that's a big number, kind of thing. To think that we've been parents for 25 years is kind of cray-cray.
I guess. After a while, you stop thinking about it as that way.
That's true.
It's just you're just doing it.
Yeah.
It's just your life.
It is your life for a very, very, very long time. But yeah, she's fine now. Everything worked out, and actually, for the most part, she was like the healthiest kid. I think maybe she missed from preschool until the end of your high school, maybe missed 3 days of school.
Yeah, in fact, they didn't really qualify her as premature. It's just that, anytime you're a few weeks early, it's,
And she was over 6 pounds, so I mean, it wasn't like she was
almost 7.
Yeah, so it wasn't
Almost
like she was like 3 pounds or something like that. So
right. So.
But then fast forward when we were pregnant with our son Mark. Our insurance had changed. I was looking
We were pregnant? I wasn't pregnant. You were pregnant.
I was looking for a doctor to go back to, and I just picked a random name out of the choices that I had. I called and they said the doctor isn't available, but we have a midwife. I said, that's fine. I had a midwife the first time. Went to the appointment, and then I'm waiting in the room, and the door opens, and it was Gail, who was our thing, and I just started bawling, and I was like, I had no idea. I totally did, because I was like, I had no idea where she was, because she wasn't at the practice that we had before, because it was like a different hospital, and I was true. Like, this was meant to be, because out of all the places that I could have picked, and I just liked the name of the doctor, and that's how I ended up.
So I want to know that, since you said we were pregnant, I want to know how people feel about that expression, because you hear that all the time, and I feel like it's like I shouldn't really. I'm not comfortable taking sort of. Like, it's almost like, no, the burdens are not equal. Let's not be. I mean, I understand. It's a well-intentioned phrase when people say that,
right?
But it's not really a. I mean, what I went through, what you went through, are not the same thing.
True.
I mean, I think they say that because people will say that because the idea is you recognize you have the same responsibility to the child. I get that part of it, but it always feels like it's like, stolen valor. Like when someone claims that they served in the military when they really didn't, or they claim that they did certain things in the military. They did. It's kind of like stolen valor to say we're pregnant. But I understand it. I understand the idea behind it being, an equal commitment and ultimately supposed to be an equal responsibility. But for that 9 months, it's not. It's not, And so I just always felt a little funny about the expression. Not uncomfortable, but just funny about the expression.
Yeah, although I was lucky, I never felt bad at all. Like, never had any morning sickness, nothing like that at all. I always felt great.
I sort of forgot about that, but I guess that's right for all three.
So obviously that's a plus, because a lot of women can have very bad reactions.
It's still not the same
you still have
actual burden. Right. I mean.
Yeah, I love being pregnant, but it's like, oh shoot, not to give birth again. The second time and third time. Well, the second time I had an epidural, then I had a C-section. The third time I had an epidural, no C-section.
And that was a little nerve-wracking the second time because we didn't know. Everything seemed to be moving along just fine, and then he was stubborn.
Yeah. And they're like, and we're going to have a C-section. And I was like, that's fine with me because I would like to be done with this part.
Yeah, but that's a tough recovery.
It's definitely a tough recovery. So anybody who has a planned one because they don't, I advise against that too, just because.
Unless you have to.
Unless you have to, obviously.
Sometimes it's, in your case, it was because, they were concerned about, and he was fine, but they were concerned about the baby at a certain point because it had taken so long.
And
it's a lot of stress on a baby
But you don't really realize how much you use your stomach muscles when you get stitched up.
Just like in normal, walking up and down stairs and things like that.
So after David had to go back to work with that, then his sister came over. She lived a half a block away from us, so she would come over and help me because I couldn't.
She lived a half a block away. That's where I showed up late at night with a broken collarbone when I was out running and.
She's like, I need to get out of here.
Yeah. So they moved as far away as they could.
And she stayed with the kids when we were with my dad when my dad was dying.
That's
so
true.
It was a blessing that she was always there close to us. Now she's not, but thanks, Joan.
Yeah.
So that is our that's our 25-year daughter story. Good times.
The only other thing about that is. Was we had that little car. It was a nice car.
Yes.
That little 2-door. It was an Acura Integra, which I really liked. And after a few times of taking the car seat in and out.
Yeah, because it was only a 2-door, and then the back seats kind of had bucket seats.
Well, it was nice. They were decent seat, it was a regular. A normal adult could sit back there. Maybe if you were tall, it wouldn't be cramped. But it was just with a 2-door car, it was kind of a pain shifting. And of course, when you have a brand new baby, your child is facing the other way, right? They face out the back. Anyway, it was kind of a pain, and you obviously have to secure the car seat and everything like that. So we ended up trading in my Acura Integra we bought a Saturn wagon. And it's so funny because the Acura was a stick shift because in my family there's this obsession with driving manual transmission, and you drive manual transmission, of course. So I bought it. Yeah, I bought it before we met, and I loved that car. It was a nice little car.
So was that a plus in my favor that I knew how to drive stick?
I don't think we talked about it. I think we discovered that later on. But anyway, so we ended up buying the Saturn wagon you could get with manual transmission. So we're one of a very small number of people in the world who had a Saturn wagon that was stick shift. It was all right, but it was a step down from the. And I
had to give up my bright yellow Geo-Tracker convertible,
which we talked about first cars. That wasn't your first car.
No, but it was
yeah. But
it was my favorite car.
but it was automatic though.
It was.
So now that's a car that should have been stick shift.
Oh, definitely. And I think because I was just kind of excited to get a car that I was just I'll take this one kind of thing. So it worked out good. But it was just one of those things where that's when your single days are over and you're definitely parents when you have to trade in for a minivan, a wagon, or something like that. So we turned the corner. So there was no turning back.
Yeah.
So now we'll have to do something as a midlife crisis. Get a.
Yeah, that's right. Get a.
Cherry red. I don't know.
Well, I have a friend on another social media platform who lives on the south side of Chicago, and he did buy a blue, not red, but he bought a blue convertible Mazda Miata.
Oh my gosh.
And he's, you know,
Do they still
around
make
my
those?
age. Well, I don't know if they still make it, but it was a used car anyway. And he joked about it being you know, a midlife crisis kind of thing. But I'll tell you something. I recall when those cars were new, I was looking for a car. This was before we met, and I was looking at I was at a Mazda dealership, and they told us at the Mazda dealership that those cars were so popular that there were only dealerships were only allotted a certain number of them in the United States, and so. And they were allotted, like, you know, any given dealership got a certain allotment of Miatas, and so like a dealership in Montana, they had no use for it.
Oh yeah, nobody's gonna
So
want that.
they would trade their one or two Miatas to a dealership in California or in Chicago or wherever for, like, you know, a couple of trucks and SUVs, whatever. They were like, it was like highway robbery because they, you know, they were so popular. People were paying more than the sticker price for it.
It was a really cute car. I would drive that.
As my friend John Michelotti said, it was just like, you know, an Aston Martin or one of those tiny little cars that you would see, except that you could actually drive it. You know, it wasn't like one of those old two-seaters from like the 60s that everybody loved, but that would break down all the time. He goes, yeah, the difference with the Mazda Miata is you can actually drive it around your neighborhood instead of just having it up on blocks in your driveway.
Right, definitely.
But we haven't done that. We did get through all these years without a minivan.
That's true.
So
that is true.
The station wagon was the only sort of like that kind of car that we ever had.
Now we're just Subaru people, so it's all good.
Well, you have to if you live here. You're required. Mm-hmm. You're required to drive a Subaru.
I think so too.
And it's automatic.
Yeah. So that's our weekend so far, and David's done his volunteer stuff, and that's continuing tomorrow, and then it's back to the work week again, unfortunately. So yeah, so that's not great that the work week is around the corner. And
it was 60 something today, and what's going to happen on Monday?
Snow.
100% chance of snow on Monday.
If it accumulates, I swear. And tonight the clocks change tonight, so don't forget about that.
Don't forget to change.
That's our PSA to you.
Yeah.
So anyway, we hope you guys have a good rest of the weekend, and we will check in with you next time. See you. Bye.